Welcome to Behind the Shadows. I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Enjoy the story. The train rocked gently as I settled into one of the seats. Anxiety pulsed within me, a mix of excitement and nerves, as the art exhibit I had been eagerly anticipating was drawing near. I glanced out the window, watching the California coast unfold in a dance of colors and shapes. But strangely, a chill ran down my spine, as if something was about to happen. I focused on the landscape, trying to push away my restlessness, but the relaxed atmosphere around me didn't seem to reflect my agitated heart. That's when I noticed a man standing in the aisle, his eyes fixed on me. He wore an intense expression, almost disturbing. My heart raced, and for a moment I wished he would look away, but he approached me instead. "Sorry, I couldn't help but notice you look a lot like someone I knew years ago," he said, his voice smooth but carrying a tone I couldn't quite identify. "Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about," I replied, trying not to let my discomfort show, but something about his presence made me uneasy. "You're named Emily, right?" he asked, and I felt paralyzed. "We were friends when we were kids. It's like I know you from other lives." I felt a tightness in my stomach as my mind struggled to comprehend what was happening. "I don't remember you," I said, trying to stay calm. "Who are you?" "My name is Jack," he replied, and the intensity of his gaze seemed to penetrate me, as if he were accessing hidden memories. I stood up abruptly, seeking a place away from him. The train continued on its course, but the weight of Jack's stare felt like a shadow I couldn't shake off. "Sorry, I need a moment," I murmured, not looking back. The urge to escape his penetrating gaze consumed me, but deep down, a part of me wondered if there was some truth in his words. The train swayed gently as I tried to distract myself by looking out the window. The California coastline blurred into a swirl of colors, but my mind was far away, trapped in the enigma that was this man, Jack. He sat down next to me again, his presence as unexpected as it was unsettling. "Do you remember the afternoons we spent together, Emily?" he began, a smile that only confused me further. "No, I don't remember you," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who are you really?" "Jack," he said as if that were enough. "We were best friends. Don't you remember our adventures in the park? The bug hunts, the laughter?" He spoke with such intensity that, for a moment, distorted images began to flicker in my mind. But everything felt blurred, like a wet painting. I don't know what you're talking about," I murmured, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "This doesn't make sense. I've never seen you before." "But we had such a strong connection," he insisted, leaning in closer. "Do you remember the time we found that lost cat? You named it Shadow, and promised to take care of it forever." Something in his tone made my heart race. Fragmented memories danced at the edge of my mind, but they were just shadows. The train entered a dark tunnel, and the lights went out for a moment. In the darkness, I felt a shiver run down my spine, a sense that something was about to change. When the lights flickered back on, a wave of panic washed over me. Jack had vanished. I looked around, the car now filled with unfamiliar faces that regarded me with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Where did he go?" I whispered to myself, fear beginning to take hold. "Are you okay?" a woman beside me asked, her voice gentle and kind. "You look scared." I just was talking to a friend," I replied, but the words felt empty. What did I really know about Jack? And what did he know about me? Questions swirled in my mind as I tried to process what had just happened. Something was very wrong, and a sense of urgency began to infiltrate every thought. I stood up, restlessness consuming me. The train felt tighter, and Jack's absence only heightened my anxiety. I walked down the aisle, trying to find any sign of him. The faces of the other passengers reflected confusion, and some murmured among themselves, their anxious eyes fixed on the windows, as if waiting for Jack to appear on the other side. "Did you see that strange guy?" a curly-haired woman commented to a friend. "He was talking about something that happened in our town." My heart raced. "What did he say?" I asked, stepping closer to them. "An accident, it seems," said the friend, a worried look on his face. "Something that happened years ago." "You're from the area too, aren't you?" "Yes," I replied, trying to remember something, but all that came to mind was a blur. The feeling that there was something important I should know was overwhelming. "What exactly happened?" The woman looked at me, her expression grim. "They say it was horrible. Many people were injured and some died. Jack mentioned a name, something that sent chills down my spine, but I can't recall it." The lights in the train began to flicker, and the train shook slightly, As if it were about to slow down, a murmur of panic started spreading among the passengers. "What's happening?" someone shouted, and the tension escalated. "Calm down," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let's stick together. We don't know what's going on, but we can't panic." Suddenly, the train began to shake violently, and the lights went out for a moment. The chill down my spine intensified, and my mind spun around the image of Jack. He had to be nearby. Something deep inside me said he was the key to understanding what was happening. "Jack, where are you?" I shouted, but my voice was drowned out by the screams of the other passengers. The train continued to sway, and I needed to find him. Without him, I felt lost, like I was adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Then from the back of the aisle, I saw a familiar shadow. "Jack," I called, more hopeful than ever, but he didn't respond. Panic began to mix with determination. I needed to understand the connection between us before it was too late. The train stopped abruptly, and I felt my heart race. The screeching of the brakes echoed through the carriage, and a wave of relief mixed with apprehension washed over me. As the passengers began to rise, nervous and confused, something on the floor caught my eye. An old diary lay there, abandoned, as if it had been left for me on purpose. I crouched down hesitantly and picked up the dusty object. I flipped through the pages with trembling fingers. The drawings were simple but had a hypnotic quality. Each one seemed to capture fragments of a childhood I couldn't remember. There was an image of two children playing on the beach, their faces lit by the sun. "Jack?" I murmured, my voice almost a whisper. A feeling of déjà vu enveloped me, as if those scenes were dancing in the shadows of my mind. "Emily, are you okay?" I heard a concerned voice from a woman next to me. It was a worried passenger, but I couldn't respond. I was trapped in the pages of the diary, each drawing revealing more than I could bear. Do you know this boy?" I asked, not taking my eyes off the paper. She shook her head, confused. "Who is Jack?" A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't know who Jack was, but I felt that this was about to change. One of the drawings depicted an accident, a shadow looming over two children. My heart stopped. The train then stabilized, and the conductor's voice echoed over the intercom. "We are stopped at an abandoned station. Please disembark carefully." I stepped off with the others, but my gaze was fixed on Jack, who suddenly appeared in front of me. He looked different, as if a layer of mystery enveloped him. "Emily," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "you found my diary. Why do you have these drawings? What does it mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You will remember," he replied, but there was a distance in his gaze, as if he were speaking of something he wasn't ready to reveal. "Come on, we need to go." I hesitated, but something inside me wanted to follow Jack, something pulsing like a forgotten memory. But what awaited me at that abandoned station? Fear and curiosity battled within me as I followed him, unsure of what I would discover about our past and about myself. The atmosphere in the abandoned station was thick, as if the air was laden with unspoken secrets. I felt exposed, like a target in a field of arrows, with every look from the other passengers piercing me. What was happening? Why did everything feel so familiar and yet so distant? Jack approached me again, his face carrying a mix of concern and determination. "Emily, you need to understand. We were childhood friends," he began, his voice almost a whisper. "There was an accident, something terrible that made you forget me." My heart raced in my chest. An accident? What kind of accident could wipe away entire memories? "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What accident? I don't remember anything." Frustration and fear swirled inside me like a storm about to break. He hesitated as if weighing his words. It was a day like any other. The park, the laughter, and then it happened. "Matt, do you remember the big tree, the one we used to play under?" An image of a tree began to form in my mind, but it was like trying to grasp smoke. After that, you just disappeared. Not physically, but from me, from what connected us. I felt a chill run down my spine at those words. Something inside me broke, as I realized that the connection that should have existed between us was severed. "Jack, this is madness. I don't know what you're talking about. How can you be sure I am who you say I am?" "Because you're the only one who can undo what happened," he insisted, his eyes shining with an intensity that made me uneasy. "The pact, Emily. We made a pact, and now it's time to remember it." Before I could process his words, a scream echoed through the station, slicing through the air like a knife. Panic took hold of everyone. I looked around, the faces of passengers twisting in confusion and fear. "What was that?" I shouted, But Jack just stared at me, his gaze fixed and intense, as if he knew more than he was willing to reveal. The world around us seemed to spin, and I felt lost, submerged in a sea of uncertainties. The waiting room was shrouded in shadows, and the heavy atmosphere seemed to stifle any attempt at mental clarity. The passengers, now in a palpable state of nervousness, clustered around an old table covered with objects that seemed to have been forgotten by time. A growing weight in my chest made each breath feel like an effort. Jack was there, his gaze locked onto me, as if he were waiting for a revelation, a moment when everything would make sense. "Look at this, Emily," he said, pointing to a worn photograph that showed children playing in a park. "Do you remember this day?" I shook my head, but inside a wave of sadness washed over me. The photo evoked a sense of familiarity, but the memories felt distant, almost like fragments of a lost dream. Jack stepped closer, his presence intense and unsettling. Those moments were happy, but they didn't last. "You need to remember, Emily. It's the only way to understand what happened." The urgency in his voice moved me, but at the same time, a part of me wanted to retreat, as if the past were a poison I didn't want to ingest. Then, at the center of the table, an old music box started to play. The melody was soft yet painfully familiar. With each note, a flood of images began to invade my mind. Laughter, a park, and then a dark shadow, a scream, a fall. My heart raced and I whispered, "The accident?" The faces of the children in the photo began to blend with other faces. I saw a face that was so close to me, so dear, but it was shrouded in the fog of time. "No!" I screamed, clutching my head, trying to push away the confusion. Jack moved closer, his eyes shining with an almost hypnotic intensity. "You don't remember me because I'm not what you think I am," he said, his voice now low and soft, as if he were unveiling a deep secret. The words echoed in my mind and a chill ran down my spine. What did he mean by that? The music box continued to play, a melody that was now becoming a lament, and I found myself paralyzed, caught between reality and the shadows of my past. "Jack, what do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. He just smiled strangely, and I knew that something dark was about to be revealed, something that would change everything. The mystery surrounding his presence now felt denser than ever, and the sensation that I was on the brink of something terrifying enveloped me. The music played on, and with it, time seemed to distort as I prepared to confront the truth I had been so desperately trying to avoid. Leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy and see other stories on the channel. See you in the next story, if you dare.